defending his decision, President Putin claims Western sanctions are equivalent to declaring war. Let's talk to political analyst and Russian exile Valery Morozov. Good to see you this morning. But can I just reflect, because you were looking at those pictures from Poland as we were. This is a disgrace, isn't it, what Vladimir Putin has done? An absolute disgrace.
I think you should keep in mind that Putin is very practical. He has no ideology and he accepts it. He can't take Western democracy, he can't take Soviet communism. But the new ideology is not yet, prepared or given to him, which he could accept. And he is very practical. Even from this point, looking at this flow of migrants, you should keep in mind, and this is the difference between Europe, the UK, and present Russia. You are looking not from practical point of view. And
what's practical about it?
The thing is that you have maybe 1 million, 1.5 million refugees now. But you should keep in mind that Ukraine is in Soviet time it was most developed and wealthy country or state in Soviet Union. Now it is the poorest country in Europe. And that's why there will be a lot of more refugees going into Europe, not only because of the fighting, which was maybe underestimated by Putin, how it will be difficult, but also because people will have chance to move to Europe. So you should accept that.
You can't. I mean, there's always a lot of talk when we talk about migration. There's a lot of talk about economic migration. These aren't economic migrants.
No. Yes, but
these are people fleeing for their lives.
Yes, but at the same time, you are giving them opportunity to change from the poorest country to the wealthy Europe. So you are to expect, and I think even Putin thinks that it will be, or in Kremlin people think, that it will be not less than 10 million.
You say this is an opportunity. This is not an opportunity. This is a denial of freedom. These are people who have had to give up their homes to now go and sleep in cubicles in a sports hall. That's how bad things are. They're not being given an opportunity.
But at the same time, you are giving opportunity for them, because before that, they can't just come to say, the UK. I'm working with the Ukrainians.
You surely you don't see that this way. That these people are being displaced because they're under fire, as Stephen said. They're fleeing for their lives.
I'm not saying that they are not under fire. They are not under fire. I'm saying that they are under fire, but at the same time, they have an opportunity to get out from Ukraine.
But they don't want to leave Ukraine. They love their country.
Yes, they love their country, but at the same time, no. That's what you asked me about my opinion and Russian opinion. And I'm telling you
that's how Putin sees it,
yes, I think so.
He's giving them an opportunity.
No, he's not giving them opportunity, but he is taking into consideration that at the same time, among these refugees, there will be a certain number of people who will decide, yes, they don't want to stay in the country where there is a war. They're afraid they want to save their lives, but at the same time, they are going to the place which is much better. This is what is important.
That within all of this, there is the argument, obviously, that there is the potential of nuclear conflict here. If President Putin puts a toe over the line into a NATO country, and as we saw from Paul, I mean, the Russian troops stationed right on the border in Belarus to Poland. Now, if there is any incursion whatsoever, this is going to cause a major global conflict. Putin must be aware of that, surely.
Yes, of course.
And is that something he's prepared to do?
The thing is that his position is like this, and the Kremlin position and general staff position of Russian army, that at any cost not to allow NATO to come into Ukraine, and that was their condition. First, the second condition was not to allow the United States mainly and the UK to create or to set up bases military bases on Ukraine. And the third is to get radical nationalists out of the government in Ukraine. These were three conditions concerning Ukraine. And I think that they consider them to be very important, and he will not be allowed by present elite and military elite to accept this. So that's why if it comes to the conflict, then it will be conflict. If it is
nuclear conflict?
You know, the thing is that I don't know. It depends on how is the understanding. But you should keep in mind that in Soviet Union, it was considered that in case of nuclear conflict, there will be several states or several regions will be destroyed completely and will not be possible to live. But say the United Kingdom, that was maybe in Europe the first, France, Germany, then the United States. And in Russia, in any case, there will be territories where people will survive. And they were preparing for nuclear conflict. And I know that during my stay in Russia, they were preparing.
So that was the Soviet view?
No. I'm saying that even after the Soviet Union, you know, when Putin came, he has been preparing, in case of nuclear war, new facilities for
some areas to survive and some areas to be obliterated.
But in any case, you know, Russia is approximately 30% of the territory of the Earth. So, and there will be huge territories which will not be attacked. You know, much more than Europe. So on these territories...
And that's his thinking, is there is an acceptable level.
You know, you should understand that when Russians, that's what I'm saying, that in the West you don't understand Russian psychology and Russian civilization. When Russian people come to some dead end in the corner, they'll fight not taking into consideration what. This is what people here don't understand. And that's why the idea, the demand that NATO should not come into Ukraine was rejected. So then we have millions of refugees, we have maybe millions will be killed, we may have war.
But it's a shocking situation, is it? And we don't. I mean, it's not going to apply to all. But certainly some of the Russian troops who've been captured, very young Russian troops, have had no idea what they're being asked to do.
You know,
they're being told that they're on a training exercise. They didn't know they were heading into Ukraine. Some of them have been told they were there to liberate Ukraine.
You know,
it's lies. It's
wait a minute. I'm not saying and not discussing the information which is coming from Ukraine and from Russia. If you read what is coming from Russia and from Ukraine, they are different stories, absolutely. Yes. I don't want to believe this or that. But what I'm saying about reality. And here you should understand, as I understand, that in case of nuclear war, me and my wife will not survive at all. We have no chances because we'll stay here. People here and politicians, they think that they'll play the political games and go further and further. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
For Putin, it's not a game.
He's already thought this through.
Yes, he's already prepared. He was preparing since 2007. And everything was planned according to this.
But that's self-defeating. If that's President Putin's point of view, it's self-defeating, isn't it? Because if you view what we're doing as political games, well, we have no choice but to do that. Otherwise, he
has no also choice. The difference is that you have no choice to play the games, and he has no choice to start the war.
Now, I see what you're saying. You're basically saying that is his frame of mind, and you're also saying...
Not only him.
No, not only him, but...
He is...
But in that case, how do we end this conflict? How can we possibly reason with somebody who is so opposite to the way we are thinking?
No,
if you've got two sides who just don't see things the same way.
At present, I don't know what are the demands discussed at the negotiations, but I think, according to the press, there are still 3 demands. no Nazis in the government, Ukrainian government, no bases, Western bases on Ukrainian soil, and no NATO in Ukraine. 3 conditions. If the West comes and says, okay, we stop, or Zelensky, or I don't know, I know that there are some people who want, unofficially already to discuss this, then there will be stop. There will be no refugees, there will be, maybe I don't know what will happen to Ukraine, division or whatever, but there are coming 2 conditions more. The West accepts that Crimea is Russian and Donbass is free, independent. What I want to say that Putin has a certain character. If he gives some demand, he may give the second demand if situation changes. But there will be never situation, his demands will be more and more and more. He will never retreat.
Is he mad? I mean, it sounds like a rude question.
We have a saying, so I'm sorry, I'm Russian. That's what I'm telling you.
So he's just Russian?
He's just Russian. And we have different. That's why, when Stalin, at the celebration of the victory in the Second World War, he stood up at the Kremlin reception and made a toast. And toast was in favor of one nation among the Soviet nations, in favor of Russians. And he said that this is the only one nation which has not thrown us out in 1941, when we nearly lost the war. They could throw us out, but nobody even thought about it. Nobody demanded. They were fighting.
But Gorbachev was Russian, and he was a very different person.
He was not, he was from south of Russia, and this is not, this is a little bit more like Ukrainian. Brezhnev was Ukrainian, Khrushchev was Ukrainian. Russians, Putin is the first ethnic Russian since 16th century. And the first who is military, and the first who is officer of secret services.
And look at the mess he's made of it. He's created
war.
something that he's now, and the country is isolated internationally. He is a pariah. His people are suffering now as a result of what he has done.
First, let us take into consideration. He had never support of the population higher than now. This is one thing. Second, regarding sanctions, if you take, say, for example, sanctions on corrupted officials and this, he told in 2008, came back and bring your assets here. 99% of population in Russia support the sanctions. And more than this, Putin supports these sanctions. Why? Because it is called in Russian nowadays nationalization of elites. Because all these people, they considered in Russia pro-Western. They were pro-Western, that's why they brought here money. Russians were against and are against. So now the reaction of Russians, there is nationalization of elites. Now our elites will be Russians and not pro-Western. You take oil. No, we will not buy Russian oil. The operation started invasion started on 4th of February. But on 4th of February, Putin signed with C agreement for 10 years to sell 100 million tons of oil at a price of that price at that moment. So Russia does not need even this market. He has already protected.
But
if you take the gas,
he is saying today that the sanctions that we are imposing at the moment are tantamount to an act of war.
Yes.
So that it's hurting.
Yes.
The sanctions are hurting.
Because, say, for example, you've arrested $300 billion of Russian assets of the central bank. This is actually the act of war. But
does he really believe that?
Yes, and everybody believes in Russia. This is one thing. The second, even as act of war, Russia will arrest all assets of foreign banks. This in Russia, there are much more, and they're arresting now. They're prohibiting to sell Russian assets by banks. You brought, the market brought down the cost or the price for shares of Russian companies and state companies bottom down. what has happened? When they were down, who bought them? Russian government. That means, and Western companies had 30% in Gazprom and up to 30% in Rosneft. So you were getting 30% of all these profits. Now you will not get anything. Everything will go to Russia. And just a minute. Gas cost of production is $30. Russia sells to China to $200. To Europe, 400 or something on long-term contract. On market price, which EU insisted, is 2,400. And this is the profit that is getting also Russia.
But if that is ultimately, in Putin's long-term view, going to benefit Russia, A, why is he calling it an act of war?
Because it is.
And B, why does he not call what he's doing, sending troops and tanks and planes and missiles into Ukraine? Why does he say that's not war? And if you say it's war in Russia, we'll send you to prison for 15 years.
No, you know, if you you'll be imprisoned, as I understand, for calling to stop the operation. He called them, Russian government calls it operation. If you start saying in Russia now that you stop the operation, then there will be a criminal case against it. That's what I'm saying. But this is the legislation now which is preparing Russia for the war.
But you can understand why we find it very difficult to understand when you say, look, this is the Russian mindset, this is what Russians believe. How do we know what Russians believe? Because they're not even allowed to voice dissent against this war without risking going to prison.
No, because first you should understand that. What I'm saying is 90% of Russians, they are not against this. That's what. Officially, 70%.
But how do we know?
No, there is a poll, the opinion polls.
But they're not going to dare say anything else, are they?
Why?
Because
I was saying. No, first there were opinion polls, and then there was a legislation. Legislation was accepted 2 days back. What I'm saying is. What the West should do, first, take into consideration Russian mentality and understand proper what is going on. Second, don't think about ideological problems or whatever. Putin doesn't have any ideological problem. He's very practical. He will not accept NATO in Ukraine. Full stop. I can assure you. If it is a war, there will be war.
NATO isn't in Ukraine.
But he wants guarantees, and the NATO rejected to give, and the United States rejected to give guarantees, and that is guarantee. That is,
But why can't a sovereign country make up its own mind what it wants to do? You say we must understand the Russian mindset. Fine, if we did that and showed total respect for their mindset. Why can't they do the same for Ukraine or any other country, to that matter?
No, the Russians understand that they,
Why can't they have respect for Ukraine and its own desires and beliefs?
Anybody can come to cage with a bear and have freedom to put his hand and punch him in the face. Anybody. Nobody rejects even the bear. Says, no, okay, come. But the thing is that if you punch him in his nose, what he will do? Take your hand and then pull you
what you're saying
inside
is that Russia is a dangerous bear. Right. And we've got to be just very, very sensitive around it.
Yes, in case you come to the cage. That is what I'm saying. Russia is Russia.
But if he doesn't want NATO on the border in Ukraine, which, we can understand that position, he's got NATO all around him.
Already. That's why he can't afford Ukraine.
Yes, so does this mean then he's going to start pushing up against all other NATO countries?
No, he was already told the demands. His first demands were not actually about only Ukraine. There was the bases in Eastern Europe, which were created after 1997, when the act was signed between Russia and NATO, which NATO violated. He says, we are to come to 1997. If you don't come to 1997, I'll use military force. He said it in December last year. And he was insisting, these were the demands. The West says, no, we have freedom. Ukraine is free to join NATO or to join this. We are not planning, but it should be free to join EU. He is not insisting on EU. Okay, there is no problem. But NATO and bases, no. So then, at a point, you came to the cage, push the hand, and start punching in the face of the bear. And then you said, well, the bear he doesn't like it. What? He told you he doesn't like it.
But that's a terrible situation.
It is not a terrible situation, it is reality.
Russia is one country. He's one leader. NATO isn't a country. NATO is a gathering together
He is the leader not of the world, and not Europe. He is the leader of Russia.
Yeah, and NATO,
he is responsible.
NATO is a gathering of lots of different countries with lots of different leaders, and they all feel that he's in the wrong. Why can't he see that so many other world leaders think that what he's doing is wrong?
He and Russians, they
don't see it that way.
They don't see it like that. They think that Great Britain, Europe, EU, the United States have nothing to do with it, and have no right to get inside Russia and to determine what Russia is to do.
Yeah.
Okay. Look, Valery Morozov.
Valery, I mean, it's fascinating talking to you. It's also very.
The problem is
you just don't see how it.
Can I ask you a question? Yeah. Can I ask you a question? Because we've talked before as well. You were down the line last time, and we described you're a political analyst and Russian exile.
Yeah.
Why are you an exile?
Because there was a corruption and conflict. I was working in Kremlin since 1998, and
because you seem very much to support.
No, I know this. My commander of Kremlin was my friend. Deputy commander was my friend. I worked for many years there, and I had conflicts. I had conflict with the three first top commanders of the Federal Service of Guards, which are, protecting presidents and all those things in 1994. And at that time, I was general manager of American Corporation.
Gosh.
Yeah, I managed to win. They were sacked.
A lot of Western leaders, frankly, are praying that Putin's own generals will turn on him.
No.
Do you think that's likely?
No, they are more radical than him. Putin has been criticized since 2014 for being weak and not doing. At that time, they demanded, and a lot of, by the way, in FSB people and in military complex, they demanded at that time active actions against Ukraine and against the people who came at that time pro-Nazi or radical nationalists. And now they are blaming because the mind of Ukrainians changed by that time, and they are really against, Russian intervention. Russia, I think, Putin and Russian generals, they thought it would be much easier, that they will be welcomed by even military. There will be clashes with the radicals, but military will welcome them and join them. Even Putin addressed military and said, change the government. We are coming, you change the government. We'll deal with you. That's what he said, because he believed. I'm not discussing because information is different. Let us see what it goes. But in any case, he will not stop.
He will not stop.
Yeah.
Okay, look, Valery Morozov, really good to talk to you this morning. Yeah. Thank you, Morozov.
Yeah.
We'll get it right. Look, it's fascinating to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed.